Hey everyone, the name is Kris Barocsi. Welcome to Gear Corner. Today we're checking out not one but two brand new overdrive pedals, both from Wampler, the Tweed 57 and the Black 65. In case you enjoy these videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell, and check out the description box under the video if you want to find out more about the gear I'm using, about the subject of the video. You'll find links in there, you'll find timestamps, link to my merchandise if you want to support the channel, and all those things. I don't think I have to explain too much about the pedals, what they are supposed to sound like, but here we go anyways. The Tweed 57 is going for that Tweed era Fender amplifier sound, that cranked sound of a Tweed amp that is so beloved for its mid-range and that harmonic content, etc. And the Black 65 goes after the blackface era, which is the 60s, where Fender amps got their black control plate or front plate, and those amps sounded much more hi-fi like much more low end and much more presence compared to the Tweed era amps, and just a bit of a smiley face kind of EQ curve. This one has a 3-band EQ, bass, mids, and treble, volume, and drive. So that is all you want on an overdrive pedal normally, but because we're talking about Tweed amps, which usually had more than just one input jack, you have the option of choosing the normal, the bright, or both inputs, which will give you obviously a very different reaction and EQ curve and amount of presence or low end, which is really cool because if you know Tweed amps, you know that you have a very different experience playing through the different inputs of those amps. The same way as a Tweed amp reacts to guitars, you get that here as well. So if you're playing a tele or a strat, you get a much less overdriven sound and a much more sort of wide sound. If you plug in a humbucker guitar, you will get that creamy, warm, mid-range heavy sound that's just so adorable and so beloved. Let's talk about the Black 65. It's a black face Fender amp in a box, basically. And what I love about it is that Brian didn't go crazy with the amount of gain. Like if you crank here the gain, you have about the same saturation and distortion happening as when you're cranking, I don't know, a deluxe reverb, a blackface deluxe reverb. These amps, if you crank them, have sort of a muddiness and sort of a fizzy, old school drive sound that, especially for younger generations who got used to all these super produced, really pretty guitar tones, can sound a little nasty. And I would understand if a company would make a blackface type drive pedal that will just sound prettier and more polished than the actual amp would. And luckily, and thank you Brian Wampler for that, this is not the case here. This is exactly as nasty, as awesome and raw as the amp is if you crank it. And that is just so inspiring and so refreshing. Obviously, the Black 65 has much more low end than the Tweed 57 pedal. So for my setup, I kind of liked it backed off a little bit. But if you want that big sound, of course, go ahead and crank it. It's awesome. I enjoy the mids at least at 12 o'clock or above 12 o'clock. And I was really careful with the treble because the Imperial Mark II already has a blackface type tone, so I did not want to overdo the presence and treble thing, so I backed it off a little bit for the most part, and that's exactly how I would suggest setting this up with most balanced, really nice and sparkly sounding amps. And obviously, since we're talking about a blackface type pedal, I wanted to know if it does the super pretty Fender amp breaking up kind of sound, the barely overdriven, very dynamic, very reactive, sweet drive tone, and it does that. And now this mini toggle, which is here, a boost. It's an on-off. And it's insane. Insane. It's a lot of boost. So even if you back the gain, you still have so much drive happening. And it's the nasty kind of drive. It's the raw power, the cranked amp kind of screaming drive. It's not the sweet, just the nice mid-range kind of boost. It's a proper one, and it's really cool if you want an over-the-top, aggressive, old-school rock or punk sound. The first thing I realized, which is funny, but this is how we are, guitar players and human beings, I wanted to make them sound similar without noticing it. Like I backed off the bass on the Black 65 immediately, backed off a little bit the treble, boosted the mids, and then did the opposite on the Tweed. They can sound in a way similar if you make them sound similar, but if you have everything at 12 o'clock, the difference is huge, and it represents the type of characteristics that these original amps, the Tweed era amps and the Blackface era amps had. So, or well, still have, because they're still in production. it's really nice to have the option of getting very close to the experience of playing an actual cranked amp without necessarily being loud. And that is, I think, the big plus when you get a really good sort of amp in a box kind of pedal, that you can make them sound so similar to the real deal that it's hard to tell them apart, and you do not have to annoy everyone, get kicked out of your apartment or out of your band, because let's be honest, for the most part, a cranked Blackface is just gonna be double the volume of what a sound person or your band members will want from you. So yeah. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think about these pedals. Which one did you prefer? Which one would you play, and how? What kind of guitar, what kind of style of music? See you down there in the comments, and see you in the next video next week. Bye bye.